So it's budget day 2, the post-mortem, where think tanks get a sense of just what these figures are. Do they add up? Who's benefiting? Who's losing out the most? And on that front, let's have a look in particular at childcare. Those childcare reforms, more free childcare for many families. Who benefits here? This is called a distributional analysis. So you're getting a sense from the poorest through to the richest, who benefits the most. The higher the bars are, the better off they're doing. And you can see it's mostly better off people who do better out of that free childcare. Let's bring on universal credit. So that's the changes in universal credit when it comes to childcare. But most of all, I'm going to bring on pensions. Look at this, the abolition of the lifetime allowance, the increase in the annual allowance. Just look at who benefits the most from that. It is the wealthiest by far doing best when it comes to these measures. But that's not everything. We need to take account of the fact that taxes are going up as well. And in particular, a lot of people are being drawn into higher rates of tax. It's called the annual allowance. It's called fiscal drag. Basically, when those rates are frozen, more people end up paying them. And were they kept in line with inflation, so raised in line with inflation, this is the higher rate tax here, the higher this is, the more people are paying it, you can see that would go down, so people wouldn't be dragged in quite so fast. But because of fiscal drag, look at this red line, it's actually due to go to the highest level that we have ever seen, with 1.2 million people more paying that higher rate of tax. That's fiscal drag. When people talk about it, it's the fact that more people are dragged into that higher rate of tax. But it's not just about tax, it's also about spending. And what did we learn there? Well, we knew that there were plans to increase spending pretty gradually in the coming years. But when you kind of break down that 1% across the whole of government, here's a few things we did know about. So NHS spending going up, schools more or less flat, defence going up, overseas aid up, core childcare, that was the thing we mostly learnt about in the budget, that's up a lot. But what room does that leave for everything else? In fact, look, it's pretty depressing. The rest of the departments around Whitehall would potentially get a fall in their annual allowance, in their spending of 3.2%. That's quite a big fall and raises some questions about whether the Chancellor needs to do a bit more on spending. But that in turn raises another question: can he afford it? And that comes back to how he's doing against his fiscal rules. This is a measure of just how much headroom different chancellors in the past had against their fiscal rules, all the way through from George Osborne through to Philip Hammond. The higher it is, the more room they had, so the safer they were. How did Jeremy Hunt do? Look, that's really low. It wasn't a very safe budget in terms of the fiscal rules. Despite that, it's worth saying markets seem quite relaxed about it.